But it's one thing to say in front of the cameras. How hard a task is it as they look to try to kickstart their season after just one game?
Well, this is the thing, it's like he's analysing it in the same way that we are, exactly the same way. But the trick is to anticipate and then be able to set your team up to conquer and overcome what the problems that Brentford were going to pose today. And basically, at both ends of the pitch, Arsenal weren't good enough tonight. It's so early in the season to put people away. But, you're looking now at the games coming up when we were before the game. And this could be a very long season, or indeed a short season for Arteta, if he does not get it right. Because it doesn't look as if the team were responding to him tonight. And I feel maybe there might be a change of personnel in terms of the system that he's going to have to go with. Does he take one step backwards now to go with the 5 that he did when he was successful in his first season? But the back four doesn't look comfortable. Partnership down the middle. He talked about long balls. Gary will tell you, you've got to win those headers. I almost took it personally if I didn't win a header from a long ball. You've got to win those battles. And Arsenal didn't tonight. And then the evidence was there for them. So they just peppered balls into the box. And as Gary said earlier, when it bounces there for that goal, you can't defend that. And they're the basics that the manager's talking about that he's got to put right.
Martin, I'm just having a little think myself here about Ben White. Arsenal have just paid 50 million for him. OK, it's his first game for the club in a competitive situation in the Premier League. I saw him as a very good player at Brighton Football Club. He often played last season as one of a back three, or wherever else he played in the side. Often Brighton played with a back three. On what you saw tonight, do you think he is dominant enough to play in a back four?
Well, it's interesting. When he played at Brighton, the likes of Dunk would have been coming and winning those headers.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have been him that was doing that. And he sort of created prominence at the back end of last season. So, you have to be equipped to deal with all types of player in the Premier League. That's what it throws at you. And tonight, I think the other defenders in the Premier League are going to have a glimpse of what Tony's going to do tonight, because he's a real handful. And he had too much for Ben White. It can happen, though. And he's got to respond. And he's got to find a way to win those jumps. Gary, yourself, it's about timing. It's about your starting position. And you would have thought, though, with the way he's come into the game, the loan deals that he's been on, and being at Leeds, playing in the Championship, that this would have been something he was well equipped to deal with now with a long ball, but he wasn't able to deal with it.
Yeah, it seemed to be.
Yeah, but again, just really briefly on that one, you know yourself as well, Martin, that as a defender, what you need people in front of you doing a good defensive job as well. So, you start to defend from the very front. So do Arsenal defend well enough from the front? Do they defend well enough as a midfield unit in order to protect the back four? Then when the back four have to defend, do they defend well enough to protect Leno, who, was he at fault or wasn't he at fault on the first goal, for example? It is about a team unit defending. And that's a big area for me where I think Arsenal fall behind or are deficient. As a unit, they do not look strong defensively.
Yeah, I can't argue with any of that. And the strong teams and successful teams that I played in, the more work we got from the people in front of us, the less we did. So it's communication, getting people into position. And I'm not sure that message is actually there within the club and then been transmitted to the players. It's okay to want to play when you get the ball, but 50% of the game you haven't got it. So you need to be strong, resolute, and keep a clean sheet until you're able to put your foot on the ball and play, and Arsenal weren't able to do that tonight.
Yeah, Martin, I just want to follow up on one of your points with a statistic. If you compare all of Arsenal's defenders from last season compared to Ben White for aerial duels, successful aerial duels per 90, if you extrapolate it across the season, Ben White only won 50%, which is lower than all of the Arsenal centre-backs from last season. So it really is something to think about, really backing up your statement there about the partnership he had with Dunk when he was playing for Brighton. But what about the players that were missing? We're talking about the midfield, the defensive solidity there. Thomas Partey's out until at least September. Of course, he has had fitness issues ever since he joined the Gunners. He can't seem to stay fit for an extended period of time. Would he have made a difference? And further up the field, when you're missing your captain, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and also Alexander Lacazette, who was a top scorer in the league for the Gunners last year, then they are going to be misses. But how big a miss is what I'm trying to say?
Well, it looked like it was too soon for Balogun tonight. You know, I know he's a promising player, but you've got to have that player. For me, Lacazette probably is the best of the bunch in terms of receiving the ball. Aubameyang really likes to play out on that left-hand side. So once they're fit and able, we're not sure they're on well. You know, whether that's COVID or there's another problem in the group, which is what we're having to live with. So that is a sympathy that I have with them. They weren't available for tonight. You saw Saka improve the group when he came on. But, you know, I just feel it's the manner of the performance. And at the start of a new season, you could see the fans there leaving quite early, the Arsenal fans, crestfallen. Is it another season of mediocrity? And they were seeing it all in that very first game of the season. Nothing really to believe in. The confidence doesn't seem to be in the group at the moment. So, you know, as I say, next up is Chelsea. So it's going to be a massive few days for the manager to try and work out how he can navigate through this difficult situation. And for me, I'd be advising him maybe to change it to a back five. But, you know, that takes a little bit away from the team. But it just didn't see enough from Pepe, particularly tonight. Ball's going in the box. He's standing watching. You've got to get across defenders to score goals.
You know, when it comes to Arsenal, I do wonder what the targets are for the Gunners, for Mikel Arteta. What would appease the fans as well? What would be a good position in the league come May? And yesterday, I had a chance to talk to John Terry about a whole host of things. The interview is up on our YouTube channel. And we did mention the Gunners and what targets they should be looking at, along with Tottenham over the course of the season. Here's what he had to say. What about Arsenal? Where do they stand for you right now under Mikel Arteta? Based on the pre-season friendlies, the same issues seem to be plaguing them.
Yeah, I was looking at Arsenal this summer thinking it's time they had a really big summer. There's obviously talk of a big takeover, which hasn't happened. Arteta's been given time. I don't think he's been given the transfer fund and the money to be able to go out and buy the players that he really wants. So, again, I think it's going to be difficult for them. I don't see Spurs or Tottenham being in the top 4, top 5 this season at all, if I'm honest. And I don't think they've done enough in the market to kind of warrant that either. So it's there's clubs like Villa, for instance, Everton, that have done well over the years. West Ham, we see last year as well, that threw their hat in the ring and could be very good again this year. So there's teams just below that 4 or 5, you know, elite teams that are really pushing to break into that mould as well. And I genuinely don't see Spurs or Arsenal in that.
Thanks to John Terry for taking the time to speak to us. And based off that, there was also an interview today with David Luiz, who, of course, is no longer with the Gunners. But this is what he had to say. Now, I think the club has a different project for the long term. They have different ideas. My idea is to win as soon as possible. He seemed to imply, Martin, that the Gunners are now looking at a long-term project. Maybe the success is not going to come this season, based on what John Terry was mentioning there and his assessment of the situation with the Gunners. Where do you stand on this? What would suffice for Arsenal this year? There's no European football. They can fully focus on domestic competitions.
Well, this is nothing new, because I said it at the time in the Daily Mail when he came. He's not a player I would have signed. David Luiz is not for me. You know, what Arsenal need is people who can defend. You know, again, you look at it, and I'm looking now, Vestergaard is available, and he's on his way to Leicester. He's 6'4", 6'5". I'm pretty certain he's been dealing with those balls coming into the box. So recruitment is all important. You know, there were other central defenders available. £50 million, he probably could still prove to be a good signing, but the likes of Anderson, signing for Palace. So you take your choices, and of course the manager's a part of that, and then you're then hoping that they're going to put the performances in, and you need a central defender for all occasions. And tonight that showed a glaring weakness in Ben White's game. But, you know, yeah, that can be worked upon, Gary. You can work on that, you can improve that area, you can nudge the striker, there's all sorts of things you can do to improve that, but that needs to come from the manager, the coaches, to improve the players. But recruitment, you know, it's glaring when you look at Pepe and the money they've spent and you're looking for a performance. You know, it's like it's not about marquee signings or making a statement with what you spend. It's who you buy and then how they perform. I think Partey's been probably one of the best signings they've made. I like Gabriel as a central defender, but Partey just cannot stay fit. He keeps breaking down, and he's been a disappointment. So really, when you look at the recruitment and what's been bought, it's not going well. But the team now needs to regroup, respond in a calm way, and come back fighting. But it's going to be the young players that the club look to, because they are the future of the club. Saka, Smith-Rowe, but they need support. They certainly need Lacazette and Aubameyang to be well and able to join the group very quickly.
Gary?
Well, for me, I look at the modern-day footballer, and it doesn't matter where the modern-day footballer plays. He has to be comfortable on the ball. He has to be well-balanced. He needs all these beautiful things. And I just feel that within your starting 11, you need to have one or two players who maybe aren't quite so beautiful as footballers, but are very, very effective. And in particular, when you're talking about defenders. Ben White, people are talking about how good he is on the ball, how comfortable he is on the ball. Well, actually, tonight, he showed us that he isn't very good at winning the ball in the air. He isn't very good when he's got a battle up against Tony. And I'm not digging out Ben White because I think he's a very, very good footballer. But on what we saw tonight, Martin's just mentioned, Vestergaard down at Southampton, who, is comfortable on the ball. But I would say his best asset, generally speaking, is the fact that he defends his goal. He defends his 18-yard box. He heads it away. He gets blocks in. And I just feel that the balance at a lot of clubs, and I would certainly say that at Arsenal Football Club at the moment, is that they don't have, let's be honest, a Martin Keown. They don't have a Tony Adams. And that's taking nothing away from Martin or Tony because they were comfortable on the ball. But their first job, and they did it right, was they defended.
Yeah. And the irony is about 3, maybe 4 hours before kickoff for this game, Vestergaard was announced by Leicester. The same time, Joe Willock was announced by Newcastle and been bought from Arsenal Football Club themselves.